Donald Trump's been having a really bad week. I mean, bear in mind, you might have like moved on, or this might feel like ancient history, but it was just this week that we found out that his accounting firm booted him to the curb and effectively said, yeah, you know, like all that like multi-million dollars worth of work we did putting together financial statements for years and years and years. Yeah, that was a big goof. Don't trust any of that. Well, that was sort of how the week began, but it proceeded from there. And as of this morning, a judge has ordered former President Trump and his two oldest children, Ivanka and Don Jr., to testify in a New York civil investigation into his business. Now, there are multiple investigations into him. This is the one where Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, has alleged that the Trump organization used, quote, fraudulent and misleading asset valuations to obtain economic benefits. And apparently, the evidence that the AG's office has accrued so far was at least enough to convince Judge Arthur Engoron that she deserves, a chance to question them in court. Now, of course, the Trump family and the Trump organization had been fighting against this, saying that either it was wrong for a number of different reasons to potentially force them to testify, either because he used to be the president, or no, you don't really want this information for this investigation. What you're doing is you're trying to get us to testify to provide information for separate investigations, including the potential criminal investigation that's also ongoing in New York. But Engoron wasn't buying that, saying that there's already copious evidence of potential financial fraud and that she, Letitia James, has the clear right to hear them testify. But that does not mean, by the way, Brett, that they will actually testify. But what do you think?
This is just one of those, I will say the feeling of following the like Trump legal battles in the state of New York. It's just, I really want it to lead to this great cathartic moment where they're on the stand yelling at each other and Trump accidentally says, yes, they deserve to die and I hope they burn in hell or something like that. Like some very awesome, cathartic, climactic moment. But and I like having it out there because I know that we need to be reminded every day. You know, if Christians are reminded of the suffering of the Lord Jesus Christ every day by looking down at their cross around their neck, which is a torture device, so too should we all be reminded that Donald Trump, as the president of the United States, did such horrific, painful things to the concept of democracy, and that everything his truth was built on was actually a lie. He lied about his financial records nonstop, was very proud of it, always bragged about it. And so when this happens, it just reminds me that he was like that. Will it build to a great a few good men type moment where he admits he ordered the code red? Probably not. He'll probably just sit there and whoever gets subpoenaed, the family members, and comes to testify will probably just sit there and plead the fifth over and over and over again. It won't be climactic, but at least along the way, for a lot of people, it does feel pretty nice.
Yeah, look, I think that your prediction is probably gonna end up being true. They will plead the fifth. Everyone involved in all these conversations has so far done so quite a bit. And maybe not, we'll see. I would love to have that sort of cinematic moment. I doubt it'll happen. It's never really that believable. I watched A Few Good Men months ago and I don't even buy that he would have been trapped in that way. So Trump obviously mentally doesn't have it together in the same way that Nicholson did, or his character did, but still, I have a feeling he will have enough lawyers surrounding him that he will avoid that. By the way, we might not even get there because, of course, this ruling that they have to testify will be appealed. I believe there's something like a several week period in which they can do that. But if it's upheld, it could force them into a decision to either answer questions or plead the fifth. Now, Trump has been very clear in the past on what he thinks about those who choose to plead the fifth. He said the mob takes the fifth. That was back during his campaign rally when he was initially running for president. In 2014, while Bill Cosby was facing all the allegations that came out against him, he said, if you were innocent, do not remain silent. You look guilty as hell. So Brett, he's been super clear. And those are principles that he's laying out. sort of like core foundational touchstones of his character and how he views innocence and guilt. So clearly he will be testifying soon.
I can't wait till it happens. If worst case scenario, we'll just have a bunch of awesome mashups of him talking trash on him, like the quasi deep fake cuts of here's what Donald Trump would have said to Donald Trump about taking the fifth or not. And meanwhile, we can count how many of his role boys are currently pleading the fifth in January 6th investigation hearings. That happens all the time, nonstop. They're always pleading the fifth, and like to the tune of 170 or 70 times during their depositions or during the hearings.
Yeah, whether it's like Don Jr. or Alex Jones did that, and you know that guy desperately wanted to say a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but he had to just plead the fifth. It must have really hurt him.
But it's an indicator of when they stop playing. Like that's the truth. When I hear Tucker Carlson go before a judge and say that Fox News isn't news, it's just entertainment. Like I hope that everyone who watches them takes that to heart when they're watching the news, or at the very least has those boundaries. The problem is they actually put it into action. So all those people that were there yelling "Stop the steal," that's like watching, I don't know, like watching Moana and then going to try to return the actual heart to Fidi. Like you got to realize that it is a fiction they're putting out for you. It's not reality. It's all for entertainment. The trouble comes when the audience tries to put it into action when really it was just meant to be like a fun little romp. And that's what's frustrating. And that's what we have to do and what we have to communicate. But at every step, people like Trump, people like Mark Meadows, people like Alex Jones, they all are going in front of a court of law and saying, I'm not serious. But that doesn't filter through to their audience. What filters through to their audience is just turning on the idiot box or opening their phone and watching this nonsense over and over again and living for it. What I'm most scared about is that at some point they'll start killing for it.
Killing more.
More.
Yeah, I agree. I wish that like them admitting like, no, this is just like they admit that it's a grift and it never gets through to the people they're grifting, unfortunately. Also, I am very happy. What's up?
I just wanted to say, like, we're talking about a few good men. That used to be the way that Americans looked at their politics. They wanted an Aaron Sorkin written aspirational view of the heightened level of discourse in their politics, right? And now it's an Adam McKay movie. Now it's just ridiculous, over the top stupidity. And Armando Iannucci, like it's that kind of Veep style, in the loop, the thick of it kind of horse crap and nonsense of bloviation and just being super mean.
Well, look, if you're watching this, if you are perhaps new to the channel and you're trying to get a feel for what sort of community we have, what sort of show we do, just understand that you will be expected to have done your research on things like A Few Good Men, the specifics of various Marvel films, and also highly specific plot points of Moana, which honestly, I'm here for it. I love that we can be very specific about Moana on this show, because that movie's a delight. Anyway,
watched it 2 nights ago.
That makes sense because you did mention the name of the goddess. Anyway, okay, with that, you're welcome, everyone. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.